Good morning students. Moving forward, we were talking about cloning vectors yesterday, and today we are going to talk about another components, another tools that are used for recombinant DNA technology like passenger DNA. What do we understand by passenger DNA? This is the DNA, either a complete genome is there or you can say a fragment of DNA is there that is used to transfer the vector DNA from one organism to another organism. So, this is how we are using this passenger DNA. Now, we can use different DNA as a passenger DNA. For example, we can use complementary DNA as a passenger DNA, or we also call it as cDNA. So, this cDNA can be transformed along with the this vector DNA. Now, cDNA, how this cDNA is formed? cDNA is basically formed on a RNA template, and for formation of DNA on RNA template, a specific enzyme is required, that is reverse transcriptase. So, we are having a RNA template, and with the help of reverse transcriptase, DNA is going to be formed. Reverse transcriptase is required, nucleotides are required, and this is how we are going to form the DNA. Now, when on RNA template DNA is formed, then we are going to get a RNA DNA duplex over here. One strand of RNA is there and second strand of DNA is there. So, we are getting a RNA DNA duplex. Now, from this RNA DNA duplex, we need to separate out the DNA only, that is taken out with the help of treatment with alkaline phosphatases. So, with the treatment with alkaline phosphatases, this DNA strand is taken out and there is single stranded DNA. Now, this single stranded DNA is made double stranded again by enzymes like DNA polymerase is there, deoxyribonucleotides are used, and with the help of which a double stranded DNA is made. Yes, it's double stranded DNA, that is with the help of DNA polymerase, deoxyribonucleotides, and now this double stranded DNA is known as cDNA or complementary DNA. So, the DNA that is formed on a RNA template, that is cDNA, and now this cDNA can be used as a passenger DNA. So, this is one type of passenger DNA that is generally used. Second are some of the synthetic DNA are also used. Synthetic DNA means which are synthesized in vitro conditions. In lab conditions with the help of DNA polymerase, that is the main enzyme, deoxyribonucleotides, in presence of various ions, synthetic DNA is synthesized. Now, this synthetic DNA can be synthesized on a template. A template can be used or without a DNA template. So, simply a template can be used, or without a DNA template a synthetic DNA can be synthesized. If we take examples of synthetic DNA, in 1961 scientist was there, Kornberg. He synthesized first synthetic DNA on a template. He used RNA primer, DNA polymerase, deoxyribonucleotides, ions were there. So all the requirements he fulfilled, and he synthetically made a strand on a template in vitro conditions. Without DNA, there was another scientist in 1965, Hargobind Khurana. He also tried to make a synthetic DNA without a template, and the first gene part that he made was a East alanine tRNA. But unfortunately that was not functional, but he made a first gene that was without using a template. So these can be, nowadays various synthetic DNA are formed, and these can be used as passenger DNA. Random fragments are also used. So third ones are random fragments. A fragment of DNA is taken by cutting with restriction endonucleases, and that are used as passenger DNA. So this is the last tool that is used in recombinant DNA technology. Now when we are getting the recombinant DNA is there, means plasmid vector is combined with the desired DNA and we get the recombinant. Now we need to insert this recombinant into a host cell. And because DNA is a hydrophilic molecule, it is very difficult that it is going to pass through the membrane. So we have to make the cells competent so that they can uptake, or the recombinant DNA is going to enter into these cells. Only then we are going to get the transformants. So how the cells, host cells, can be made competent for the uptake of recombinant DNA? There are various physical and chemical methods which are used. To make the host cells competent. Like first let's talk about the chemical method. These chemical methods are used for those cells which are not having cell wall. So if a cell is having, or if cell wall is removed, then these cells are treated with the chemical method. Now without cell wall is there, the protoplast is there. Now these cells, they are taken in a solution along with the linearized plasmid recombinant DNA. We are having a recombinant DNA, we are going to linearize that DNA, that is circular form. If we are going to cut it at one place, that is going to open up in linear form. So we are going to take the host cell plus linear recombinant DNA. I am just writing recombinant DNA in one single solution, and that solution is given magnesium ions. So high concentration of magnesium ion is provided in the solution, and along with magnesium ion, PEG is also given, that is polyethylene glycol. So these are provided in the solution and they are helping the cells to make competent. Now after that treatment, this PEG is going to be reduced, the concentration is going to be reduced, and the concentration of calcium ions is going to be increased, so that the chances of formation of recombinants, or you can say transformants, is going to increase. That is because now the cells are going to uptake the recombinant DNA. But this chemical method is not very much successful. There are lots of disadvantages that are associated with this chemical method. Like, if we talk about the disadvantages, most of the cells, they are going to die with such type of chemical treatments. So, death of cells because of chemical treatment, and when we are using chemical method to make cell competence, more and more non-transformants we are getting. So, this is almost a failure. So, lots of non-transformants are there. That is why this is not a successful method, and many of the time this chemical method also leads to the breakdown or degradation of this recombinant DNA. And if this recombinant DNA is going to break down, then there is no meaning of forming transformants. So, that is also responsible for degradation or breakdown of recombinant DNA. So, these are some of the disadvantages of chemical method. Other than this chemical method, lots of other methods are also used, like the second method is electroporation. In electroporation method, again the host cell and linearized recombinant DNA is taken in a ionic solution. So, again we are having a host cell plus recombinant DNA, that is linear, in ionic solution. These are given a treatment. They are either low voltage and long pulse treatment is there. If you are keeping the voltage low, then pulse is going to be increased. For long period of time the voltage is applied. If you are going high voltage, then it is given for small period of time, and with durations, lots of cycles, these voltage is going to be provided, and because of providing this voltage, the plasma membrane, the porosity of the plasma membrane is going to be changed. So, either two things are there, either we are going to provide low voltage and long pulse, or high voltage and short pulse for specific cycles, and this is going to change the porosity of plasma lemma. And because of this change in porosity, there are chances that this recombinant DNA is going to enter inside the host cell. This is how electroporation is going to be performed. Now, the next method is that there is bombardment of DNA molecules, and these are going to be coated on either gold particles or tungsten particles. That method is particle bombardment gun method. So, what is done in this method? Simply the DNA, our recombinant DNA, that is coated on the surface of gold or tungsten particles, which are small in size. So, DNA will be coated over their surface. This is also known as biolistic method. and then they are sprayed with a very high pressure. They are going to be falling on the cells. So chances are that they are going to enter inside the cells. Or micro injection can be used. Micro injection means with the help of micro syringe or micro pipette, the DNA is directly inserted inside the cell. We are having a micro syringe, that is minute sized, or a micro pipette is there. Micro pipette can be used, and these are having our recombinant DNA, and that is directly inserted inside the cell. So here chances of forming transformants is going to increase. So these are some of the methods that are used to make the host cells competent so that they can easily uptake the recombinant DNA and we can easily get our transformants. So now let's see that what are the different steps that are used in making recombinant DNA. So let's see the process of recombinant DNA technology. The first process, the first step is isolation of DNA. Firstly, we need to require our desired DNA fragment for which we are going to make a recombinant. So there will be isolation of DNA. Now if we talk about DNA, that is the genetic material, and we know that this DNA is going to be present inside the nucleus of the cell. And if we talk about a cell, then cell is having a outer envelope. If you see a cell, then outer envelope is there, and almost in the center the nucleus will be present, and inside this nucleus DNA is going to be present. Now if we want to reach up to this DNA, we need to break down the cell envelope. Only then we are going to reach to the nucleus of the cell. So to break down the cell envelope, there are different enzymes which are required. Say if we are working on bacterial cell, we are extracting out a DNA fragment from a bacterial cell, then we are going to treat the cells with enzyme lysozyme, because lysozymes are going to break down the envelope of these bacterial cells. If we are working on a plant cell, the envelope is made up of cellulose. So cellulase will be, treatment of cellulase is required for breaking down the envelope. Say if we are working on fungal cells, then there will be requirement of chitinases. So this is how, depending upon the type of cell from where we are going to take out the DNA fragment, we are giving treatment with different type of enzymes. Now after breaking down the cell envelope, there will be lots of substances that are going to be present over here. Histone proteins are associated with DNA. We are going to get lots of RNA molecules also. So now DNA should be isolated and purified, because lots of impurities are going to be present along with the DNA. So along again with the help of various enzymes, DNA is purified. Like DNA is associated with histone proteins because they are going to be helping in the packaging of DNA. So proteases treatment is given. Treatment of proteases is given which are going to break down the histone proteins. Then RNA is also present in the solution. RNA ribonucleases are used to break down the unwanted RNA strands. Just like that, all the impurities, they are removed by treatment with specific enzymes, and this is how we are going to break down every component except our DNA. And after treatment with so many enzymes, we are going to get our DNA, and this DNA is precipitated out by treating with chilled ethanol. When we treat this DNA with chilled ethanol, we can finally precipitate out the DNA in a solution that has been removed from all these impurities. This is how from the cells we can easily isolate a DNA strand. Now the second step is, now this DNA, we need to fragment this DNA and we need to find out our desired DNA fragment or gene on which we are going to function. So that will be the second step, that is cutting off DNA at specific locations. And we know that DNA is cut on specific locations by enzymes that are restriction endonucleases. These enzymes have their own specific recognition sites on which they are going to cut the DNA strand, and we are going to get various fragments. So we are going to incubate the DNA along with the restriction endonucleases so that we can get the fragments. Now how we are going to know that yes, restriction enzymes are doing their work and they are converting this DNA into small fragments? We can see this by simply running the DNA solution on agarose gel electrophoresis. We already talked about agarose gel electrophoresis, that is simply on the basis of charge. Say this is a electron agarose gel and these are the wells in which we are going to add our DNA solution. Charge is there, this DNA is negatively charged, so we are going to keep it at the cathode end and it is going to run towards the positive end. So movement is from cathode to anode. So if this DNA solution is filled over here and it is cutted by restriction endonuclease, so here we are going to get fragments of DNA like this. So on the basis of their size, this DNA is going to separate on the agarose gel electrophoresis. We can use one control over here, and by comparing the size with this control, we can isolate our desired, or we can elute out our desired fragment of DNA, which we are going to use for recombinant DNA technology. So this is how we are going to get DNA fragment. Now for functioning purpose, only one single fragment of DNA is not enough. We need multiple copies of this DNA fragment, and multiple copies of this DNA fragment in vitro conditions, that is done by polymerase chain reaction. So the next step is to amplify this. Say this is our desired DNA. So for one experiment, this one strand of DNA is not enough. If we are failing in our experiment, all the work which we have done is going to be wasteless. So we need to amplify this DNA strand so that we are going to get billions of copies, and now we can easily work on it. So this is how we are going to done amplification of DNA. That is the most important step, and this technique was given by a scientist. So let's talk about polymerase chain reaction. It is also known as PCR. And this technique, this was given by Kary Mullis in 1985. Why this technique is used? It is used to amplify a DNA strand. Amplify here simply means we are going to get multiple copies of a DNA fragment, and it is better to work with multiple copies. Now, on what basis, on what principle this polymerase chain reaction is functioning? We simply, what we are going to do, say this is a double helical strand DNA fragment. Now, this DNA fragment is given very high temperature, around 94 degrees Celsius. On such high temperature, these two strands are going to separate from each other. Reason is because the hydrogen bonding that is present, say the nitrogenous bases are having hydrogen bonding, so this hydrogen bonding is going to break at a high temperature and these two strands are going to be separated. This is known as denaturation. After that, after getting the single stranded DNA, all the necessary conditions are provided, like primers are provided, DNA polymerase, deoxyribonucleotides are provided, and these are used as a template and new strands are formed on this template. So, earlier only one DNA double helical strand was there, now two are there. Again these are going to undergo denaturation. This is going to open into two strands. This is also going to open into two strands, and again these two are going to form a double helical DNA strand, and this is how multiple copies are going to be obtained. Now let us talk about what are the different things that are required to perform a PCR. Firstly, we need a desired DNA fragment which we are going to amplify. The DNA we have isolated, purified, that DNA fragment will be used, and we have eluted out that DNA fragment from the agarose gel electrophoresis and we have purified it. So, there is requirement of a double stranded DNA fragment. Now, second thing is there is requirement of primers, because DNA polymerase is not itself going to start DNA replication, that is going to add nucleotides at the 3' end of the primers. This thing we have talked about when we were talking about DNA replication. So, here also primers are going to be required. So, almost 10 to 18 nucleotide long stretch of DNA is required, that is going to act as a primer. Now, another important thing is there is required of enzyme DNA polymerase that is going to extend the DNA strand, responsible for the formation of new DNA strand. Now, here is a problem, because we are giving such high treatment 94 degrees Celsius. So, all the DNA polymerases, they are not stable at that particular high temperature. So, there was requirement of a DNA polymerase that can withstand high temperature. So, a thermophilic bacteria is there, Thermus aquaticus. From this Thermus aquaticus, that is surviving in very high temperatures 100 degrees Celsius. So, from that bacteria, DNA polymerase was isolated, that is known as Taq polymerase, and this Taq polymerase is used for the formation of new DNA strands. So, from Thermus aquaticus, Taq polymerase is isolated, and this Taq polymerase is used as a DNA polymerase that is functioning in the extension of DNA strand. Now there are requirement of ribonucleotides because these are going to be added by this Taq polymerase for the extension of DNA strand. So these are the requirements of the PCR, polymerase chain reaction. Now let's talk about the steps, that how this is going to function, what are the different steps. First step is denaturation. First one is denaturation. Denaturation simply means that hydrogen bonds will be broken down and double stranded DNA will going to, the two strands are going to separate and form single stranded DNA, and the temperature is 94 degree Celsius. So at 94 degree Celsius hydrogen bonds will break and we are going to get single stranded DNA. Two single strands are going to be obtained. That is the first step, that is denaturation. The second step of PCR is annealing. We have given excess of oligonucleotides which are going to serve as a primer. So the temperature is lowered down at 40 to 60 degrees Celsius and excess of oligonucleotides are there. 10 to 18 nucleotide DNA stretch is a oligonucleotide that is going to function as a primer. So they are going to associated with the DNA and they will give a 3' end, a free 3' end. After associated with the DNA strand, we will see in the diagram how these are going to anneal. So a free 3' DNA end will be provided by these oligonucleotides, and on this free 3' DNA end, 3' end, the Taq polymerase is going to add more and more nucleotides. So the third is extension. Extension simply means adding. Taq polymerase is going to add deoxyribonucleotides at the 3' end, and finally the DNA strand is going to elongate. So here Taq polymerase extends the new DNA strand, and this is done at a temperature of 72 degree Celsius, still a very high temperature. So this Taq polymerase can easily tolerate this high temperature, so it is going to extend the DNA strand. Now let's see in a very simple diagram that how this whole mechanism is taking place. Say this is a DNA fragment, and in that DNA fragment this is the portion this is showing our base pairing. I am not writing the nitrogenous base over here. So this is going to be our DNA fragment that we need to amplify. So we are going to cut it with the restriction endonuclease, and after cutting it with the restriction endonuclease, we are going to come with the first step, that is denaturation. So if denaturation occurs, say this is the 5' to 3' end and 5' to 3' end. Then I said that denaturation is leading to opening of this DNA strand. 5 prime, 3 prime, this is first strand. They are going to act as a template. This is the next strand. So here denaturation has taken place, the hydrogen bonds has broken, and these two have separated from each other. Now in the second step, when annealing is done, then the primers, they are going to associate or pair up with these two strands on the places where they are going to find their complementary sequences. So I am showing the primer with blue. Say one primer is coming over here, 5 prime to 3 prime end, and it is going to pair over here. The second primer, that is also going to come and it is going to bind on this particular strand. Say here is a primer that is going to bind the 5 prime end and the 3 prime end. Now comes the function of Taq polymerase. So the third is extension. And what will happen during extension? This is the 5 prime to 3 prime end. Here are primers were present. So at particular position, at this position, Taq polymerase is going to add more and more nucleotides, and this is going to extend in this direction, and here also this is going to extend in this particular direction. This is how the new strand is synthesized using these two strands as their templates. And again we are going to get a double stranded DNA stretch from here also and from here also. After getting complete double stranded DNA stretch, again the same cycle is going to begin. Again these two are going to denature like this way. Annealing will be done, extension will be done. This is same thing is happening with this also. So after almost 30 cycles, we are going to get billions of DNA fragments. So billions of copies of this particular DNA fragment is with us after 30 cycles. This is how this polymerase chain reaction is responsible for the amplification of DNA strands, for making billions of copies of a DNA strand, and that is very easy and convenient to use. So that is polymerase chain reaction. So that's all for today. Next time we are going to discuss how we are going to purify the products that we are going to make with our recombinant DNA technology.